Thank you, Mr President. I beg to ask the Treasury Minister what plans he has to simplify the process for claiming free TV licences by those aged 75 and over.
Calling the Minister for Treasury, Mr Cannon.
Mr President, honourable members will recall that last November, following this honourable court's support for the restoration of free television licences for those aged 75 or over through a rebate scheme, I introduced the TV licence repayment scheme. Treasury had only a few weeks to devise, legislate for and roll out the scheme, which is now in place. Mr President, I am pleased to confirm that since its introduction we have made over 6,000 payments to eligible applicants, and that payments are now being made to almost all applicants within a week of receiving their claim. Like all social security payments, there is a legal requirement for a person to have made a claim or to make a claim within the prescribed time by completing the relevant form and providing evidence of their eligibility, in this case either their TV licence renewal notice or their new TV licence if they have already obtained one. As regards TV licence payments, they have a 3-month window around the time their licence is due for renewal to make their claim. Claim forms and information about the TV licence payment scheme are available at social security offices and post offices and can be requested over the phone or by email, and are available also on our web pages. Mr President, I fully appreciate that the requirement for elderly persons to have made and make such a claim for a payment each year is not ideal, but currently there is no viable alternative. However, I am happy to commit to a review of the way in which the current scheme operates during the first half of next year to see if any improvements or easements could be made.
Supplementary question, Mr Ashford.
Thank you, Mr President. Can I start by thanking the Treasury Minister for the positive reply there? It is very much appreciated the work that Treasury has undertaken in this area, particularly by those aged over 75 and entitled to the free TV licence. Would the Treasury Minister though be willing to look into the form that has to be completed? While I appreciate that a form does have to be completed because it is a benefit claim, the TV1 form that they fill in confuses a lot of people, and would he accept that in relation to the fact that it asks whether you or your partner are in receipt of income support or income-based job seekers allowance? So there are certain individuals aged over 75 thinking they cannot claim unless they are in receipt of income support or income-based job seekers allowance. Would he accept that when he comes to do the review, a separate form purely for those aged over 75 who are claiming under that heading would be probably less confusing?
Cannon.
Mr President, I thank the honourable member for that feedback. I committed to reviewing in the first half of next year this matter. I take those comments on board, and I will ensure that the relevant officers look specifically at the form and whether indeed that questions that are put on that form could in some way be improved for clarity.
Honourable Member for Council, Mr Cretney.
Yes, thank you, Mr President. Could I ask the Minister, whilst it may not necessarily be his department, can he give this court the assurance that it is still the intention of the government to seek a fair settlement with the BBC for Isle of Man citizens, the same as applies to other jurisdictions?
Treasury Minister.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr President. And the member questioning will appreciate that my department is in fact not engaged in that matter. However, I do have some assurance from the Cabinet Office that we continue to seek a fair deal for the Isle of Man, and of course monitor the ongoing situation in respect of the TV licence fees.
Honourable Member for Ramsey, Dr Allenson.
Thank you, Mr President. I'd like to thank the Treasury Minister for his determination to make this a fair process. However, would he agree that in the United Kingdom the emphasis was put on the BBC to fund licences for elderly people? And surely a better way would be to exempt people over the age of 75 from having a licence altogether, which would get round this problem that people having completing the forms. Would he also agree that if the UK government could persuade the BBC to bring in an exemption criteria, that should be applied to people on the Isle of Man as well?
Yeah. Treasury Minister.
Well, Mr President, as many of you know, this is slightly more complex than the sort of position the Honourable Member for Ramsey has just outlined. The provision of a free TV licence for the over 75s by the BBC, but paid for by the Isle of Man government, was in fact legislated for in UK regulations at the request of the Isle of Man government, and the UK Department of Culture, Media and Sport laid a statutory instrument before Parliament in July of last year, which, amongst other things, removed the concession for the over 75s living in the Isle of Man from the 1st of September 2016. The BBC made it clear at the time that it would be unwilling to resurrect the previous process should the Isle of Man government subsequently decide to restore universal provision. So this is a decision that was made before this honourable court came into this current honourable court came into being. As I said, I am assured that the Cabinet Office are looking very carefully at a number of issues in respect of TV licence fees, and of course there are a number of we are seeking clarity on a number of issues before 2020, and we'll continue to monitor the situation.